Okay, so qualitative research methodologies include phenomenology. How long do you think it took me to learn to say that?
That was like you kind of roll with it.
I know, because I like to say it, phenomenology. I like saying it. Phenomenology. So phenomenon. It is the study of a phenomenon. See, I can't say phenomenon. It is a study of a phenomenon from the viewpoint of people who have experienced that. So a phenomenological study, a phenomenological study would involve you probably talking to people who work, live, act in a context that you're interested in studying. That is your study of that phenomenon through the lens of those people who are experiencing or have experienced that phenomenon. Okay? And you can contrast that with an ethnography. Okay? In an ethnography, we're often immersed in that that world that we're studying, okay? And so we become a part of that social setting and we study it kind of from within. So phenomenologically, we look out or we look onto the people who are studying. Ethno is from the inside, okay? And then the grounded theory, this is what I was talking about, the data emerging or theory emerging out of the data. And it is just this methodology where we have this qualitative data collected and we analyze it in a way that we eventually have a theory about this particular phenomenon. Okay, that's where that comes from, grounded theory. So phenomenology, through the eyes of those who've experienced it. Ethnography, being in that setting, in that social setting that we're studying, and then grounded theory, emerging theory out of the data. A lot of times when I have read ethnographical research, one of the common criticisms is like the researcher didn't spend enough time in that setting. I see that a lot. And whether that be in a school setting, like a lot of educational research is ethnographical, and obviously different communities across the world. Like a researcher will go in for 6 months and then report out, right? And people are like, you should have stayed a year. Go ahead.
I see that a lot with educational case studies.
Yep.
Where the person who's conducting the case study will just be there for a short amount of time, and then us on the other end are like, we don't see the validity in your research because you didn't spend time.
Yeah, and then so that's exactly what the criticism is. You didn't spend enough time in the setting, but at the same time, how do we prescribe how long it takes to gather enough data in an ethnographical study? How do we know? Like if you were to believe research that was applicable to your students, how long do you think a researcher would need to be in your context in order to make you believe they understand that phenomenon correctly?
A whole year, because in that world, a person, after they go through their first year, that's when they know, like they can see everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
you see the whole cycle of how a year goes. Yeah.
So educational in the school, if you're trying to do some form of research on that, that's what I would say for me personally.
So a year. Yeah. What about if I were studying, women in, pick an African country. I say Africa because my kids were naming African countries last night and I didn't know any. No, they knew like where they were. I was like, I've heard of it, but I don't know where it is. So let's say Morocco. I'm studying women in Morocco. How long does that take?
I mean, typically social studies, you should say like 7 years, 7 to 10 years.
7 to 10 years.
What?
And think about think about the practicality of that. I'm a researcher. What is the practicality of me staying in that environment for 7 to 10 years?
So you can understand that
Yeah.
cultural context, the way of life, like also like, you're going to study different phases of women's life, from like childhood to adulthood, and there are different factors involved. You can't just go in.
So a whole lifetime.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
And so these two ladies, thank you very much. You just proved my point about the criticisms of that kind of research. Because people are like, you wasn't here long enough. You weren't. But the reality is, I'm funded for a year to go to Morocco. I got to get what I can get in that year, I'm trying to finish a dissertation. I got 2 months to spend at this school. The reality sometimes truncates how powerful ethnographical research could be.
It reminds me of like an undercover cop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the idea is that you vibe in that setting and
Yeah, and that's why, like, I don't know, especially when it comes to, I remember some guy wrote an article about, like, how visas are granted in, how American visas are granted in Nigeria. And it was, I don't know if it was British or from America, US. And man, Nigerian Twitter came for him, and I was just laughing. I was like, you played yourself. You shouldn't have said nothing, because.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You don't know. Yeah. So you said that's a vote for positivism. Yeah. Yeah. And you'll probably see more phenomenological research for that reason too, because you're inviting people from that setting to help you understand and make meaning of it. It's a slightly different approach, slightly different qualitative methodology.